Democrats and Republicans both seemingly happy with the final results of those hearings.
Here to break it all down for us, please, Fox 5 legal analyst Wendy Patrick. Wendy, good morning.
Good morning.
What did we learn yesterday?
I won't say nothing.
For you.
That would be very cynical. Let me say very little.
Yep.
Very little that we didn't already know.
Yep.
That was in Muller's report. Now, this is not a surprise. What was a surprise is the great expectations that preceded this hearing. Remember Robert Mueller himself in late May when he gave that press conference, basically said, hey, this is one and done. I am not going to be saying anything other than what I've written in the report and what I have said today. So anybody who thought that yesterday was going to be some dramatic reading of his report, expecting to see Robert Redford instead of Robert Mueller, we're sorely disappointed because he didn't provide that type of sizzle. It was really more fizzle if you were expecting him to bring that report to life. He said he wouldn't, he didn't, but I think the optics of it went even worse than some of the Democrats were explaining.
Really?
He seemed confused. He seemed like he didn't have a grasp of the 448 pages. Who could? Unless he did every single interview himself, and there's no way he could possibly accomplish that even over 22 months. So God bless him. I think he did the best that he could to prepare, but the optics of it, I think, left a little less than some of the Democrats were expecting.
Yeah, we watched it starting 5:30 in the morning, and I remember turning to Raul a few times and saying, you know, he looks like he's having a hard time, but that is just a lot of information. What do you think now? A few hours have passed. Now that people are kind of digesting what happened, what was the takeaway from all of that? Who really won in that?
Well, if you ask the president, he will say it was a victory for him because he lived to fight another day. He wasn't hurt by the testimony. Now, if you ask the Democrats, many would say, well, he at the very least reiterated some of the most important parts of his report, and it was great to have the American people actually hear it from him. However, the manner in which he testified didn't provide the kind of testimony that most people were hoping to see on the Democratic side. I mean, at the very least, he stuck to what was in his report, but the amount of times he asked for questions to be repeated, the amount of times he explained, no, I won't read it, you read it, and simply defaulted to yes or no answers or saying he couldn't go there, was really something that I think Nancy Pelosi would argue helps her in persuading the Democrats that it's not the right time to move forward with impeachment proceedings because he didn't give them anything to work with.
There isn't the support. We've heard all about how when Nixon got impeached, I mean, they had support from both parties. It wasn't just one party because you can't get it done without that full support. Tell me about what happened with Nadler and Pelosi and the closed door thing. They talked about impeachment. They're like, it's just not going to happen. Right?
No, it's not politically a correct move because it almost makes the president look like the victim because it's not going to go forward in the Senate. So what would be the point in taking up that kind of time in doing it in the House? And here's something else, and everybody's talking about this now as we get closer to 2020. Most people continue to care about the kitchen table issues, you know, the prescription drug prices, border security, jobs, all of the rest of that, health care. Now, the Democrats know this. They think they can do both. Both talk about, impeachment proceedings and talk about kitchen table issues. But I have to say, the one thing that Robert Mueller was passionate and on his game about yesterday was the fact that election interference is continuing. That was the whole point of this probe to begin with. So if we and again, that's a bipartisan issue. If we focused more on that, that would be a productive way to spend our time rather than simply talking about impeachment as a political exercise where it's not going to go forward. And by the way, this whole thing is just in time for summer recess. What happens Friday? Vacay.
They're going to go for 6 weeks and disappear.
That's right.
Didn't we talk about exactly that topic back in May or whenever it was that he addressed the media or whenever the report came out where we said, look, lost in all of this is the fact that the Russians really mess with our elections and they're going to do it again.
We did.
But we get lost in this back and forth of Republicans versus Democrats, and it's like, wait a minute, the Russians are sitting over there laughing, and they're going to do it again in 2020. You
know the difference, Raul and Shelley, and I was thinking about this morning. When we broke down that late May presser, Robert Mueller did very well because he was reading from a statement. He could have been a different witness yesterday because he was being forced to take incoming questions he didn't have in advance from all segments of the room. Remember, he couldn't even see some of the lawmakers that were talking to him. And it was very, very difficult. And it made people wonder how much of that investigation he personally conducted versus how much did he outsource. And if the latter, how well was he debriefed between then and yesterday? So it was an entirely different witness. It was not what either side was expecting. And therefore, neither side side landed the blows they expected to land. So did we move the needle? Not much.
That's what I was going to say. So today it's just another day, and then things move on.
Another warm day.
Good golly.
We move on with our summer vacation for a lot of people.
Know,
That's right.
Okay, Wendy Patrick, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time as always.
Always a pleasure.
Time now.